These are the 3D VIEW-MASTER pictures of Germany. To the question, what is Germany? One is tempted to reply, Germany is a problem. How else could one describe a country of 181,500 square miles, which has been split up since 1945, according to one of those definitively proportional arrangements which raise the temperature on our poor planet at regular intervals. This country has had a strange fate indeed. Its involved history has been one long series of efforts, never entirely successful, at creation a nation. From the beginnings of the Holy Roman Empire in 962 to the 19th century, nothing and nobody, not even the Reformation, which went through it like a tidal wave, achieved national unity. In Prussia, finally, national feeling found its first expression when the need arose to unite against the French Empire, while Prussia aimed at increasing her power among the 39 states of the German Confederation, but it required Bismarck's term grip for the long-awaited German unity to become a fact. The German Empire saw the light of day in 1870 in the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles. The King of Prussia took the title of Emperor. The upswing in population and prosperity which followed made Germany the second industrial power in Europe. This power, together with an expansionist policy, was to draw the country into the first worldwide conflict. The 1918 armistice caused the downfall of the monarchy and other national institutions. The Republic knew a short period of prosperity until the 1929 economic collapse threw the nation into chaos again. This gave the parties of the extreme right an unhoped-for change. They achieved their first success at the 1930 elections, prior to Hitler becoming Chancellor in 1933. On August 2nd, in 1934, he succeeded to the presidency of the Republic. From then on, the nation's energies turned toward preparations for war. The Anschluss of Austria opened the era of annexations, and the invasion of Poland triggered off a new world war. The Germanies. Whenever a foreigner in the Federal German Republic refers to East Germany, there is a good chance of his being misunderstood. In fact, Germany, within the frontiers of 1937, has been divided in three, actually four parts. First, the Federal Republic, 95,753 square miles, with a population of some 55 million, formed in 1949 out of the American, British and French occupation zones. Facing it is the former Soviet occupation zone, now the German Democratic Republic, with a population of 18 million and a territory of 41,700 square miles. To a foreigner, this is East Germany, but a German refers to it as Central Germany. Then come Pomerania and Brandenburg, east of the Oder River, as well as Silesia, all now under Polish administration. Finally, there's East Prussia, carved up between Poland and the Soviet Union. These territories under foreign government total some 44,000 square miles. The more than 12 million people who lived there were expelled to the four occupation zones in 1945 to 19 1946 and replaced by Polish settlers. Let us not forget Berlin, whose peculiar status is generally known, with 2.2 million people in the western against 1.1 million in the eastern part. The institutions. We often use the name of Federal Germany without paying much attention to what this term really means. West Germany is doubtless a federal republic because the 3 independent cities and 8 Länder states of which it consists enjoy a large amount of autonomy. On the other side of the Iron Curtain, the German Democratic Republic, DDR, was founded in the Soviet zone in 1949 in response to the creation of the Federal Republic. The Socialist Unity Party, SED, forms the government, which has its seat at Pankow, a suburb of East Berlin. In this republic, power is centralized. In 1952, the Länder lost their autonomy and were replaced by 15 administrative districts. The German miracle. In 1946, the country was in desperate straits. 4 to 6 million Germans had disappeared in the turmoil. Millions of others were prisoners of war. There were ruins as far as the eye could see, and the factories that had survived were being dismantled by the occupation powers. National production was so low that a German could not have bought more than 1 suit of clothes every 40 years and 1 shirt every 10. And yet, exporters worth 4,000 million marks appeared on the world market in 1949, while 10 years later this total had increased tenfold. And from the fact that in 1964 the Federal Bank converted $900 million into American gold, we can conclude that the Deutsche Mark is a healthy currency. In the Democratic Republic, DDR, things went differently. As early as 1945, the Soviet authorities imposed on this mainly agricultural region reform measures by which all farmers owning more than 250 acres were expropriated and 30,700 farms were divided up into 209,000 of less than 25 acres each. In 1949, a first 5-year plan was prepared covering the years 1951 to 1955. But unlike the Federal Republic, where the needs of the home market, consumption goods, came first, the DDR concentrated production on heavy industry. The spiritual Germany. Certain authors have gone as far as to say that Germany had her cultural past to thank for the substantial economic aid she received after the war. There is no need to go to such extremes to point up Germany's contribution to European culture. It is sufficient to quote the names of Luther, Leibniz, Kant, Goethe, Schiller, Fichte, Humboldt, Hegel, Marx and Nietzsche. And it is the same Germany which gave the world of music some of its greatest names: Bach, Handel, Beethoven, Schumann, Wagner, Brahms, Richard Strauss and Hindemith. Germans are born with a taste for music in all its forms. They scarcely have a celebration without a little choir, and opera houses were understandable among the first to be rebuilt. Theaters also share in his love for the spectacular, and one cannot help being impressed by their variety and the subsides they receive. This does not mean that Germans are stay-at-homes. Their wanderlust is well known. 10% of the national revenue is spent on it, and they love the great outdoors. The Germans have several other virtues, being honest and faithful, as well as people who like to see a job well done. And although it sometimes had the worst results, we should not ignore the discipline of this nation, which could not have rehabilitated itself without it. The politeness and cordiality of the people leaves the foreign tourist with a picture of Germany that would be perfect, if it were not for those confounded German beds with blankets that never reach down to one's feet. VIEW-MASTER Reel 1, Picture 1, Berlin, Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church. This church in medieval style, built towards the end of the 19th century, was destroyed during the Second World War. It stands in the heart of the city, at the far side of the Kurfürstendamm, the city's famous thoroughfare. The remains, not more than the burnt-out shell of the tower, have been left as a token of the past, forming part of the new modern church. Picture 2. The Brandenburg Gate stands on the border between the western and eastern sectors of the city. This monument dates from the 18th century and is built in the form of the propylaea of the Acropolis at Athens. The quadriga which used to adorn the top was destroyed by war action. The horses were facing the west, but those of the new quadriga are turned towards the east. Beyond the Brandenburg Gate is the Under den Linden, the city's most elegant meeting place before the war. Picture 3. Lübeck, an old Hanseatic city, preserves its independence for 700 years, until 1937. Founded in 1143 and built on an island in the Trace, the city has kept its medieval aspect. The Helston Gate, 15th century, which is considered a gem of Lübeck architecture, is built of red brick, as were all the old buildings in the city. Picture 4. Hamburg, a free port and second largest city of Germany, has a truly cosmopolitan character. Built on the Elbe River, more than 60 miles from the river mouth, the city has a population of about 1,900,000. Picture 6. The Ruhr and Krapf. If the Ruhr is the most important industrial region of Europe, Krapf is the biggest concern of the Ruhr. This explains the inevitable association of the two names and the fact that it is difficult to think of one without the other. Founded in 1811 by Friedrich Krapf, the firm counted only 67 workers in 1835. 100 years later, on the eve of the Second World War, Krapf employed some 125,000 persons. And if this number has fallen to 25,000 as a consequence of the post-war dismantling, Krapf remains nevertheless one of the biggest concerns of the day. Picture 6. Cologne will always be linked with the silhouette of its famous Gothic cathedral, built between 1248 and 1530. The towers, 470 feet high, were not finished until 1842. From the top one has a fine view of the Rhine Valley. The name of the city derives from a place called Colonia Agrippinensis, originally a Roman camp built in 50 BC. Picture 7. Kaup, a little town of a few thousand inhabitants, which owes its renown to the Pfalzgrafenstein or Pfalz, a castle fortress built in 1326 by Ludwig of Bavaria. Situated on an island in the middle of the Rhine, it levied a toll on every boat which passed by. VIEW-MASTER Reel 2. Picture 8. Cochem, in one of the most beautiful parts of the Mosel Valley, is dominated by a burg, a medieval castle which was destroyed in the 17th century and rebuilt in 1877. The small town with its murals, fountains, Baroque-style town hall and narrow streets is well worth a visit. Picture 9. The Goethe House in Frankfurt on the Main was entirely destroyed during the last war, but in 1945 rebuilding operations started according to the original plans. Furniture, paintings and books had been stored for safety. The French author André Gide laid the first stone of the new building. Goethe was born here in August 28th in 1749, lived here until 1775. Picture 10. Heidelberg on the Neckar boasts the oldest university in the country, founded in 1368. This medieval city, which miraculously escaped war destruction, is considered one of the gems of Germany. Overlooking the city is a ruined castle where artistic events are still held. Picture 11. Stuttgart, the old residence of the King of Württemberg, nicknamed the capital between the forest and the wine. It is an important road and railway center, and the city is also known for its astonishing production of mineral water, reputedly more than 4.4 million gallons per day. On our photograph, the television tower, 692 feet high. Picture 12. Vorbach is a health resort in the Black Forest, situated at an altitude of 1,000 feet, with a population of some 3,000. The Black Forest is a mountainous mass of average height in the states of Baden and Württemberg, which towers over the Rhine Valley. The slopes of the Black Forest are covered with various species of trees. Picture 13. Meersburg, an attractive medieval town, looks out on the Lake of Constance, Bodensee. The lake, which is the third largest in Europe, borders on Germany, Switzerland and Austria. This region is known for its picturesque charm and pleasant climate. Picture 14. Neuschwanstein Castle. Ludwig II of Bavaria, a romantic king, protector of Wagner, ordered in 1869 the construction of his dream castle at the summit of a rock 3,280 feet high from the plans of an interior decorator and not of an architect, which only accentuates the very strong impression of unreality already created by the particularly high position of the edifice. VIEW-MASTER Reel 3. Picture 15. Garmisch-Partenkirchen, at the foot of the Zugspitze, lies in the Wetterstein range and is formed by the two villages of Garmisch and Partenkirchen, today united. Old brightly colored peasant houses can still be seen here. Picture 16. Bavaria has always been a region with an individualistic character and which succeeded in keeping its autonomy for a long time. Until 1919, it still formed a kingdom in the bosom of the German Empire. Today, one still respects faithfully here the local customs, and the traditional costumes are worn with pride. Likewise, the traditional welcome reserved for the cows, which come down from the mountain pastures at the end of autumn, has remained a typical festival in this region. Picture 17. The Königssee, situated about 3 miles from Berchtesgaden and surrounded by mountains, some of which reach nearly 6,500 feet. The Königssee is one of the most beautiful and most impressive lakes of Germany. In Berchtesgaden, on the Obersalzberg, dominating an unforgettable panorama, one can visit Kielstein House, which was the former den of Hitler. Picture 18. Munich is the capital of Bavaria and the third city in the country with 1 million inhabitants. It suffered greatly during the war, but has kept its special character and is a highly important cultural center. Picture 19. Dinkelspool is a town of 9,000 inhabitants on the famous Romantic Road, and there are those who consider Dinkelspool with Rothenburg as the most beautiful town in the region. Its old buildings and medieval atmosphere have been preserved, and the ramble along the city fortifications with its moats, towers and bastions is unforgettable. Picture 20. Bamberg recalls in several ways the old part of the town of Nuremberg, situated a little to the south. But if the toy town has expanded industrially and counts now 500,000 inhabitants, the little town of Bamberg, with its 75,000 inhabitants, has succeeded better in retaining its medieval character. It owns some of the most beautiful German art treasures, of which the famous equestrian statue is a sculpture dating from 1240. Picture 21. The Harz Mountains, a rocky granitic massif with a very wild aspect, situated in central Germany. From the belief of the people, the witches meet here on the 1st May during the Walpurgis night. The sanctuary, made with tree trunks, is very much like the Lammas Stavkirke of Norway and evokes more the idea of a Germanic temple than a Christian sanctuary. We want to add new videos every day, so please subscribe to our channel.
And if you had fun, thumbs up.